What's up, guys? It's Kix
and Eddie Garcia here.
Podcast live. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna talk about some stuff coming up. We're gonna talk about the band and how it became, and we're gonna have some live. We're gonna do a live performance between me and my brother acoustically.
And we'll talk a little bit about the behind the scenes of the band as well, who the band is and where we're going. When we're back, second portion of the podcast, we're going to be diving into a little bit about the band, how it started, a lot of the people involved. You know, a lot of the times we've seen a lot of bands come and go. It's not easy. You really have to love it, to say the least, right? It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
It's turned into a business.
But it takes a lot of people also to support you.
It does. And so we'll dive into that as well. There's a lot of people that do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff for us and let us just kind of focus on the music aspect of it. Maybe sometimes we have to get involved and make a decision here or there. But
right. So talking right now, let's talk about the members currently in the band, which is obviously myself, my brother Eddie. We have Eloy, who's been since the band started.
Eloy Cantu, he's pretty much
handsome as hell.
He's the handsomest guy in the band. We get that. We hands down all the time.
He always practices in his spandex.
That guy wears a simple T-shirt and he just makes it look good.
And I've tried to.
And I really hope he watches this podcast because he knows what I'm talking about.
I'm like, man, I get the same shirt and I'll put it on. I'll look in the mirror and I'm just like, I can't
make it look like
I can't do it.
Can't do it.
How does he do it, man?
Hey, you tell him, hey man, that's a nice shirt. Es el mono. Love that guy. So, Eloy is our bass player, and he's actually a big driving force of the band, which every band needs. You know, you need to be meticulous with music. You can't just, I cringe when, oh yeah, we'll just do it like this. No. It's gotta.
It's not always just however it comes out.
Yeah.
No, it's gotta sound a certain way also.
It does.
And Eddie's very particular with the guitar sounds.
With I guess for you guitarists out there, musicians, sometimes you go see a band and there's a really good guitarist and you can pick out their backgrounds, right? Whether it's jazz, blues. But if you're improvising every song, you're not, doing your homework, you can hear that. It stands out, right? So you're like, okay, man, he's improvising and that's his flavor and he's throwing that into every song for a solo. It starts to sound like the same song, right? So things like that you just kind of start to notice. And Eloy is really good at picking this stuff out. So I think he's really helped me grow as a musician as well and help the band become tighter, right? He's the one always harping on.
So another thing about Eloy was that, Eddie played guitar, right? But he was, when we started jamming out as the Kix Garcia band, basically, Eddie would just go, have a couple beers, have a good time, and watch us practice, which was at the very beginning. And then, so we felt like we needed something else, like maybe another guitarist. And Eloy said, hey, don't you play guitar? And then he was like, yeah, brother, I play.
And he sucked me in.
He sucked you in, dude. Because after that, it was just like, okay, well, put your guitar on and let's see how it sounds. And it started sounding full. And at the time, Eddie wasn't really all that fancy with the guitar either.
Yeah, I was not.
You weren't a lead guitarist at the time.
I was not doing any kind of.
You had to learn quick.
Yeah, I was into other things, and then I just really got into it. I always liked it, and I'd pick up the guitar often, but never really.
But you did. You
the craft,
So you and Eloy because Eloy wasn't even a bass player either. He played drums.
Right.
So the way Eddie and Eloy learned their instruments that they play right now, which is bass and Eddie plays guitar. They learned so quick, but they were so focused in it, which really amazed me. I was like, man, how are you guys picking this up so quick? But yeah, they did, and it helped out tremendously because then Eddie started playing the guitar, and one day at practice, Eddie, he threw in a harmony. I think out of nowhere, right? Because no one knew that Eddie could even sing. That was at least in the band. I don't remember what song it was, but
And it was kind of by accident too.
it might have been "Every Girl" by Turnpike.
I think yes, it was Every Girl.
So
Because it was that beginning part.
right,
Where she was.
yeah, we're just trying to learn the song, and then Eddie throws in the harmony, and everybody in the band kind of just stopped, and it was like, what just happened? What just happened?
We added a little layer of flavor. Music.
Yeah, so it was like, at the time it was like Eddie and the band.
And
we just become best friends.
At the time, Gary was our drummer. Gary Mackey.
Gary Mackey. Yeah, he's in San Angelo now.
Yeah. So the funny thing about Gary is he was with the band probably for about 8 years. He's been out for about 2 now.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is I was
7 years, I think. 7 or 8 years. Either way, it was a long time.
I was talking to somebody about the band, and they were asking me, the questions and who the members are and how long and all kinds of stuff, right? And I said, well, the core of the band is so on, and it's Eloy, and then we got our drummer, Gary Mackey, and his background, he also plays accordion and all kinds of stuff. And then
Is that when I called you?
about 5-10 minutes later, Kike gives me a call, and I'm still talking to this person.
Because me and Gary worked together at the same company.
Yeah.
We both worked at the same company.
And then he's like, hey, man, Gary's out. I was like, what? Like, I'm just talking about that, man. Like, we've been together 7-8 years. He's a drummer, this and that. And we're like, oh, boy. Man, so
That threw a big wrench, man, in all of our plans.
that was quite the experience, as well as trying to get somebody to fill in Gary's shoes. Is something we hadn't really had to do.
We never had to, and it was always like we always had such a good flow with the band.
Yeah, right. And now you're getting another musician to come in, and we're having these auditions.
We didn't even know where to go because we didn't even know how to look for a musician.
Well, Eloy was actually pretty good about it, of course, right?
Eloy.
He'd get
It
up
had to be
there,
Eloy. It had to.
he's reaching out, and hey, bro, I got this guy coming in. So he was the one actually that was the forefront, at least took the. He took that role as setting up the auditions, right? So,
Right.
so now instead of practicing, it's turning into auditions with drummers, and we eventually went through. I believe it was a total of 5 guys that went in.
5 Guys Burgers.
5 guys went in. 5 different drummers auditioned, I believe, right?
I think it was.
And not that any of them were, bad or just sometimes it's got to be. It's just got to click, right? So that leads us to Chris.
And it was interesting because at the end of every, I guess we'd call it a rehearsal, but it was more like practice rehearsal.
Mm.
So the way we did it was we would send the drummer that was gonna
About 5 songs.
audition. I think it was 4 songs, and they would show up, and we would go over those 4 songs, and then so we would finish, and then the drummer would leave, and then we would stay back as a band and talk about it, see what everybody thought, and then so sometimes it was like, I don't know, this guy doesn't even live in Laredo. Is he gonna make it to the shows?
Right.
Which Laredo is our base, so that's where we usually play.
And the practice, at that time we were.
Right.
It was like, we got to practice. A lot of bands, I know maybe they get a gig, they'll rehearse once before the gig, and then, but it's like, man, what about the coming in, the intros, the outros, and all kinds of stuff that you really got to be on point with. So we were like, no, we got to practice every Thursday, it's our thing. And it was kind of hard for somebody to be able to do it. Um, and then it was kind of getting to the point where, man, we're just gonna have to roll with whatever we can take. And we ended up getting who's our drummer right now.
That's where Chris comes in.
And Chris comes in, Kix Garcia. Very versatile drummer. So he plays all kinds of stuff, right? He's played with the Jolly Ranchers, which have been around for quite a while. They're still gigging a
So
lot.
he used to do his gigs at La Laguna.
That's right.
Every Wednesday, he would play there. So he played all kinds of music.
Mm-hmm.
He said he had played with a country band.
He's done country.
I
He's
think
done
once or-
cumbias. He's done with Tejano bands.
Everything.
He's played with rock bands. But also this guy has been, I think he's self-taught. He played since he was like 8 years old. He started jumping on the drums. And he even won a competition, a drumming competition where he won, I think it was here in Laredo, and then he went to compete in, I'm not sure if it was San Antonio or the Valley or something like that. He ended up doing pretty good. So he's definitely a talent, and he's got a driving force. So he's clicked really well with the band. He's a really good guy. So we got us. We got Eloy is the bass player. We got Chris on the drums right now. If you guys go catch a show, you're gonna hear that loud thump because this guy can hit the crap out of the drums, and he does it really well. And then we have
Second guitarist
and
lead harmony.
and harmonies. Yeah, Kix Garcia. He was actually fitting in for me when I went to San Diego. Right, Santi Moreno was still with the band.
When you went to Georgia.
Sorry, yeah, that's right. I was
So Eddie,
Georgia.
for work, he was actually in Georgia for almost about a year.
Yeah.
About 11 months.
That's right.
And during that time, we had, so we were a 5-piece band. Eddie left, so we needed to fill his position for the time being, which was, we filled it with Mr. Gilbert Garcia.
That's right.
And
Santi was still playing with the band.
Yeah, Santi was still our guitarist at the time. Santiago Moreno, really good guitarist. Shout out. Hope to see you soon. I haven't seen you in a while, man. And so Gilbert came in and he was doing the harmonies and basically rhythm guitar.
Yeah, and he's still in the band.
Yeah, he for harmonies he's killer, man. He brought the band to another level with harmonies, and doing the rhythm guitar in the background, which led him actually to start doing. He does a couple of leads now. He's a very talented musician, so it was good to get him on, and so he's already been. That was what, 3 years ago.
Yeah,
that he's
been about 2-3 years. It's gone by so fast.
Playing with us already.
So now this is the band, and again we're talking about the wheel, right? It's a big wheel to spin. It's not just let's get together, plug in your instruments, and play. No, it's a lot of expenses that come with the band. Staying, your sound. A big one is marketing, especially right now. So now we'll dive into
the behind the scenes
is a lot of bigger.
And it can go on forever because you create a band, right? And it's all fun and games. And then it actually happened to us because it's just like you say, it's just for fun. Whenever you're doing it, but then if you start building on that, people start paying you to do these shows, and that's when it becomes okay, dude. It's not just, we can't just say like, oh well, we're having fun, so if we mess up, who cares? No, you're getting paid for it, so it actually becomes a job, and you didn't even expect it. I guess it happened from one day to the next. It's just like, hey, we're getting paid this much money to do this show. We need to get the show down. It has to be really good and tight.
A lot of pressure starts to come with it.
If people are paying for it, we need to make sure that they enjoy it.
Exactly. So we'll dive into that in a bit. We're going to take, this is the end of the second episode of the podcast, for the third episode, we'll talk a little bit about the behind-the-scenes
behind the
stuff
scenes.
that happens, and just the good people that we're fortunate to be surrounded with, and you know, they really help us build and still enjoy what we do. You know, it gives us a purpose to want to become better too, because we see the effort everybody around us is putting. So it's important to show up for them, right? You know, and you start to feel the pressures of certain gigs per se, and it's important that we take it personal and we want to put a good performance out there for the people that believe in us and support us. You know, so stick around for that. We'll talk a little bit about that when we come back, or for the next episode.
Another night without you by my side, but that don't mean that I'm alone. Another stranger lays in my bed tonight, and I know what I'm doing ain't right, but I'm still coping with your goodbye. Girl, you got me hoping, baby. Just ain't you, but tonight she'll have to do. I'd rather be holding you, but baby, she ain't you. Well, between the whiskey and those neon lights, and hearing that guitar ring takes me back to the first time I held you tight. On the dance floor we sang along to Amarillo by morning, swaying side to side. Cause baby, she just ain't you, but tonight she'll have to do. I'd rather be holding you, though baby, she ain't you. Lying here with this woman, I must confess my heart's hopelessly devoted. I'm just a bit